Let's talk to Nigel Dodds, the Deputy Leader of the Democratic Unionist Party and the MP for North Belfast, joins us from the city now. Good afternoon to you. Look, we know the dissident threat has never completely gone away, despite all the progress that has been made over recent years. Why do you think England has become a target once again?
Well, dissident terrorism here, as it's called, those who don't want to move forward and recognise that terrorism is a thing of the past and people don't want it, they have been active. They are relatively small in number, and I think the reason they're doing this on the mainland of Great Britain is to draw attention to their cause, the fact that they're still around. Let's face it, if this was happening in Northern Ireland, there probably wouldn't be the same scale of news attention, but because it's happening in England, it does mean that it gets a heightened profile for their activities. These were crude and unsophisticated devices, nevertheless could have been lethal, and it reminds everybody that as well as Islamist and Al-Qaeda related terrorism, we still do have a threat from Republican sources here in Northern Ireland.
I mean, clearly, Mr Dodds, because of your position, you will get some security briefings. I mean, on the basis of those, how severe a threat do these sort of groups really pose?
Well, we understand from the security briefings that we get that they are relatively... They have very little support out there on the ground in any part of Northern Ireland. But nevertheless, it doesn't take very many people who are determined enough and evil enough to do damage if they set their minds to it. And we have had instances here in Northern Ireland through the murder of a police officer, the murder of a prison officer, attempts to disrupt life in the city centre through bombings and so on. But overall, these people are not wanted by people in Northern Ireland. They're incapable of sustaining on the basis that the Provisional IRA used to do. It was equally unjustified, of course. But the main message that must come through is that we do need to be vigilant, alert, because these people are determined to try to cause death and misery. But they won't derail the political process. People are determined to move Northern Ireland forward, and we want to see an end to these kinds of attacks everywhere.
Is there a sense of political culpability here, in the sense that there's been failure to reach agreement on flags, on parades, on the past of Northern Ireland, despite the intervention of Richard Haas? Does this not fuel dissident activity?
No, I don't think you can relate this to dissident activity, because for a long time we were told that because policing powers and justice powers weren't in Belfast, they were kept in London. That was the reason why the dissidents were continuing to be active. That has now been devolved. They're still active. These people have no real agenda. They want basically to upset the political agreement that has been put in place. They want to bring down Stormont. They want to take Northern Ireland out of the United Kingdom. Look, everybody across all the communities in Northern Ireland now agree that there is a political settlement. Everybody's working at Stormont. These people have nothing to offer. They have no real agenda that can be met. It isn't about flags or parades or anything like this. Theirs is a much deeper grievance.
Does that mean you need to bring them into the political fold?
Well, I think that the difficulty with them is that they have nothing really to bring to the table. I mean, they have no coherent strategy. They have no set of demands that can be reasonably met. Very often they do not want to appear on the airwaves even to explain. It's impossible for journalists here to actually get hold of them to say, well, what is your agenda? It's almost an anarchic campaign which is designed to destroy everything which has been built up in Northern Ireland over the last number of years. And quite frankly, there is nobody to talk to on that front. I think that the politicians in Northern Ireland have worked very closely together and will continue to do so.
Mr Dodds, we will have to leave it there. Thanks very much indeed for your time today. But stay with us here on Sky News. Much more coming up in just a moment.